From homeless black man to millionaire, a story of hope. And Elon Musk with Donald Trump. Marcus wiped the sweat off his brow as the Miami sun beat down hard. The crowd buzzed around the giant cooking arena, flashing cameras, yelling fans, and sizzling grills everywhere. But Marcus wasn't thinking about the noise. His fingers trembled just a little, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. This wasn't just any cooking competition. This was the one. The contest that could make or break everything he ever dreamed of. The one that could flip the story of his life on its head. A few years ago, Marcus was sleeping on crumpled cardboard boxes in back alleys. No kitchen, no money, no hope. Just him and a fierce hunger to prove the world wrong. Now he was a celebrated seafood chef, famous for pushing boundaries with bold flavors and wild ideas. He'd built his career on inventing dishes that broke the rules, but nothing this big. Not in Miami, a city pulsing with spicy secrets and cultural fire. And the craziest part? Elon Musk had sent him a message right before the competition. Elon Musk, the tech billionaire who seemed to float above the world like a comet. Why? No one knew. Maybe Elon had a thing for Marcus's daring cooking. Maybe something else. The message read, "Keep shaking things up. The world is watching." It was surreal, unreal, but it fired Marcus up more than ever. Then, out of nowhere, like a bolt of lightning cutting through the Florida heat, Donald Trump showed up. The former president, striding into the arena with his trademark blast of confidence. Cameras swarmed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus froze for a split second. Trump wasn't just a surprise guest. He was an earthquake, shaking up the whole competition. Marcus scanned the sea of faces, spots of shock and whispered protests. Trump's presence was like salt and fire. People loved or hated it. Marcus knew this was his moment. If he could impress this man, it could flip public opinion about black chefs everywhere. But that's when things got tangled. Jamal stepped beside him, slick suit, cool smile, but his eyes flickered with something else. Jamal wasn't just a business guy. He was a black entrepreneur determined to change how African-American food was seen and respected. They had teamed up barely a week ago, but the block-long tension between their worlds was real. Then Trump, offhanded, dropped a line about black food that stunned the whole place. The word cultural appropriation buzzed through the crowd like a live wire. People debating loudly, emotions running high. Jamal's jaw clenched. Marcus felt the sting of old wounds flare up. The bond between them suddenly felt thin, fragile. As the competition heated up, secrets surfaced. A shock wrecked the foundation of all Marcus had built. A secret about the origin of his signature seafood dish. A scandal that could wreck not only his chances, but his integrity. The crowd's cheers blurred into murmurs of suspicion. Marcus's hands shook again. His friendship with Jamal, already frayed. Could it survive this? The sun dipped lower, Miami glowing gold amid the chaos. Marcus stood at the edge of the stage, knives laid out before him. His mind raced with doubts and questions. Could he turn this mess into a win? Could he hold on to what mattered most? His dream, his pride, and his friendship? Or was this just the beginning of a fracture so deep it would tear everything apart? Hey, Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Marcus stood at the edge of the stage, heart hammering as he glanced at Jamal, who looked equal parts nervous and D. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the crowd that buzzed with anticipation. Each second felt like a lifetime, heavy with the weight of expectations. His hands hovered over the knife set, but his mind raced, caught between the thrill of the competition and the storm brewing around him. But then, just as Marcus was about to start, a sharp scream pierced the air. It sliced through the noise, cutting off words hanging in the moments before action. Heads turned, brows furrowed, whispers fluttered like angry birds. He followed their gaze to a commotion near the entrance. A man was being dragged out. The camera lights shifted, flashing like strobe lights, revealing a second figure, a woman in a sleek dress, eyes wide with terror. As she stumbled forward, her hands waving in frantic denial, Marcus recognized her. It was Rachel, a fellow chef, the one who had mentored him back when he was just starting. The world went silent for a heartbeat as everyone tried to process what Rachel shouted. Desperation etched on her face. You don't know what you're doing! Questions hung in the air like dark clouds. Confusion rippled through the crowd. What was going on? Security was trying to calm Rachel, but she was like a wildcat trapped in a cage. Then she turned to Marcus, that wild look locking onto him like a spotlight. Marcus, you have to help me! They're lying. Her words sliced deep. Lying? He felt tension knot his stomach. What was she hiding? But the shift in her tone, the fear, it was real. The crowd stirred, a wave of murmurs crashing against his heightened pulse. Then Marcus felt it, a freezing trickle of doubt. He turned to Jamal, seeking reassurance. Instead, he found a mask of uncertainty. What if Rachel was right? What if everything he built could shatter like glass, like a beautiful plate slipping from his hands? Stay back, Rachel! A guard called out, moving closer. But she pressed on, fueled by adrenaline. I found something. Something about the dish they don't want you to know. Marcus's heart dropped, a heavy rock in his chest. Dish? The one that made him a star? The one that had launched him on this wild journey? He felt the world tilt, uncertainty threatening to swallow him whole. Was there a secret hidden behind that recipe? Don't listen to her, Marcus, Jamal shouted, but even his confident facade was cracking. You can't trust her. She's... Marcus's pulse quickened as Rachel's eyes bored into his. You deserve the truth. They're using you. They want to take everything away. And just like that, the world went wobbly. The spotlight shifted, blinding him momentarily, but he could hear the crowd's rising tension. Gasps echoed. Anger simmered. What could Rachel possibly mean? He struggled to breathe, throat tight, wondering how deep the rabbit hole went. A sudden wave of anger surged in him. This wasn't happening. Not now. Not here. He stepped forward, a war taking shape in his mind. What do you mean, Rachel? In that instant, everything felt undone, like a neatly made bed being thrown into chaos. The truth hung to unravel, a dark cloud weaving through the bright lights and fierce competition. Could his dreams be about to explode right before his eyes? The crowd leaned in, eyes wide, every whispered conversation building a storm. And Marcus, the chef who dared to dream, stood at the very center, torn between loyalty and revelation, friendship and ambition. Then, without warning, a figure in the crowd cried out, "He's been set up!" The earth shifted beneath him, and Marcus felt the ground open, leaving him teetering on the edge of something unknowable. The noise faded as he struggled to grasp the enormity of the moment. Secrets, betrayals, friendships, and the competition was just beginning. Marcus stood at the edge of the stage, knives glinting under the fading Miami sun. His heart raced, a wild drumbeat in the silence before the storm. The crowd was a living thing, a pulsing mass of excitement and tension. He could feel their eyes on him, the weight of expectation heavy on his shoulders. This was it, the moment he'd worked so hard for. But doubts clawed at him. Jamal's intense gaze burned beside him. Then it happened. A figure burst through the crowd, a blur of motion. It was a young woman, hair unruly, clothes torn, a wild look in her eyes. She charged straight toward the stage, gasping for breath. "Marcus! Marcus!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the buzz. The crowd fell silent, every eye darting to her in shock. Marcus's heart dropped. He recognized her. It was his sister, Maya. But what was she doing here? The last he'd heard, she was still struggling, caught in a cycle he'd fought so hard to escape. "Maya!" we cried out, a mix of worry and confusion flooding over him. "What are you doing here?" She reached the stage, panting, her face pale. "You need to stop. It's not what you think." Her words flew out like arrows, each one hitting him harder than the last. "What do you mean?" Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. The tension shifted, twisting like a knife between him and Jamal. Everyone was frozen, waiting for answers. Maya's eyes darted to the crowd, then back to Marcus. "You don't know. The dish? It's not yours. It's from Mom. She didn't just teach you to cook it, she created it." And now Jamal? Her voice trembled, pain etched on her face. "He's trying to take credit. They're saying he funded everything for you. They're watching, Marcus. This competition, this moment, it's all a setup." Shockwaves rippled through the crowd. Whispers erupted like wildfires. Conversations igniting as faces went from shock to disbelief. Jamal's expression morphed from cool confidence to something dark and defensive. "What are you talking about?" "That's not true," he snapped, but his eyes were wide, betraying a crack in his composed facade. Marcus felt the floor drop beneath him. His entire journey began to feel like a house of cards. The way Jamal had always pushed him. The way he casually dropped hints about Mom's recipes. How could he have been so blind? "Is it true?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking. struggling to stay grounded. Maya nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. You have to believe me. They're going to destroy you if you don't. I didn't want to come here, but I had to warn you. You have to fight back. The reality of her words struck him like a thunderclap. The audience, once his supporters, now felt like enemies. Their murmurs grew, turning into an army of doubt. He looked over at Jamal, their friendship suddenly feeling like a distant memory. How could you, he whispered, betrayal cutting deeper than any knife could. Jamal's calm facade crumbled. I did what I had to do. For us. You're bigger than this, Marcus. Don't let them tear us apart. But the crowd was restless. The air electric with confusion and betrayal. Their cheers had turned into questions, a chorus of judgment, casting shadows on Marcus's dreams. Could he salvage this moment? Could he trust anyone anymore? Maya stepped closer, urgency in her eyes. You need to choose. This moment could change everything. The truth is out there, but they're ready to twist it against you. Marcus felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, the tightness in his chest growing as he looked between his sister and Jamal. What did it all mean? What would happen next? The ground felt unsteady, the future uncertain. And then, from deep in the crowd, a voice rose above the chaos. What do you stand for, Marcus? Who are you, really? With those words, he realized everything was about to shift, and he had to decide whether to rise or fall. Marcus felt his heart thump wildly in his chest, the weight of Maya's words hanging heavy in the air. Dimi. The crowd shifted uneasily, a living sea of expectation and anxiety. He glanced at Jamal, searching for answers, but found only desperation in his eyes. The tension thickened around them, like fog rolling in from the ocean, a warning of what was to come. What do you stand for, Marcus? That voice from the crowd echoed like a clap of thunder, and he felt it deep in his bones. The pressure mounted. Could he really trust anyone in this moment? Then, the lights began to flicker. A low hum wound through the arena, silencing the murmurs. The competitive atmosphere morphed into something urgent. Marcus squinted into the brightness and felt a shiver creep down his spine. Marcus, listen. Maya implored, her voice frantic. Get out now! But before she could finish, another figure surged from the shadows, darting towards them, cutting through the crowd like a blade. It was another chef, Carla, a rival with a notorious reputation for sabotaging competitors. She burst onto the stage, eyes wild, breathless. Stop everything! You can't let them! Suddenly, a loud crack reverberated through the arena. The lights flickered off completely, plunging everyone into darkness. Gasps and murmurs erupted, chaos swirling around the stage. People stumbled, calling out to one another. The sudden shift sent panic rippling through the crowd, and then, boom! A crash echoed like thunder, followed by a blinding flash. As the lights flickered back on, gasps filled the space. A massive pole had fallen, colliding near the edge of the stage, smoke curling up into the air. Screams erupted, and the audience surged backward, pushing and shoving with sheer panic. Marcus, get down! Maya pulled him down to her, shielding him. A glance back revealed Jamal, frozen in shock, looking back and forth between the chaos and Marcus. What's happening? Jamal yelled, trying to be heard over the cacophony. But Marcus couldn't hear. The world became a blur. He felt a burning sensation in his chest, fear gripping him tight. From beneath the veil of smoke, he saw Carla, still standing at the edge of the stage, pointing. It's all connected. He knows. Marcus, it's been a setup from the start. Stunned, Marcus searched for coherence amid the chaos. Then it hit him like a wave crashing against the shore. Rachel, with her frantic warnings. Jamal, who seemed like a friend. Maya's desperate plea. Before he could process anything more, a siren rang through, adding to the frenzy. Security rushed onto the stage, voices yelling as they tried to calm the panicking crowd. "Everyone, evacuate!" they shouted. Panic struck like a sudden storm. As the crowd surged toward the exits, the lights flickered one last time, revealing the shocked expressions on hundreds of faces. Marcus felt his reality shifting beneath him. Was everything he fought for just a mirage? And then, in the thick of confusion, the tension snapped. A man appeared in the shadows, his face partially covered, but an all too familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Did you really think it would all end this easily, Marcus?" The voice echoed with a twisted familiarity, and Marcus's blood ran cold. Recognition hit him like a punch. It was his estranged father who had vanished years ago, leaving him with questions and wounds that never healed. "Dad?" he gasped, eyes wide with disbelief, confusion, and a flutter of something else. Anger? Hope? The figure stepped closer, revealing a smirk that twisted the air. "You have no idea what's been waiting for you." The world narrowed around Marcus as echoes of chaos surrounded him, doubts and fears merging into one sinking truth. Everything had just changed. Relationships, stories, dreams, they all hung in the balance, shattered in a heartbeat. How could he move forward now? What did it mean? And what was waiting for him in the shadows? The answers loomed large, and Marcus felt the ground shift yet again, pulling him deeper into an unknown abyss. Marcus stood at the edge of the stage, heart racing, hands shaking. The crowd around him buzzed with anticipation, but all he could feel was the weight of uncertainty. He glanced at Jamal, their eyes locking for just a moment. Both of them wrapped up in the chaotic undercurrent of the moment. Then everything changed. A sudden crash echoed through the arena. Gasps erupted from the crowd as a sound like breaking glass shattered the tension. The source? A large television screen high above the culinary battleground crackled to life with breaking news. The chaotic vibrations threw Marcus off balance as a familiar voice filled the air, unmistakable. Punk. It was the calm but firm voice of a news anchor. "Breaking news in the world of culinary competition," she announced, her expression grave. "A shocking revelation has surfaced regarding Chef Marcus Carter's signature seafood dish, which has garnered much attention in recent months. Sources allege that it may not originate from Marcus's own creation, but from a long-lost recipe belonging to a famous chef who went missing years ago. A weight dropped into Marcus's stomach like a stone. The words thundered in his ears, the crowd's cheers melting into whispers of disbelief. His face went cold, skin prickling. He could feel the spotlight shift, its heat turning into a harsh glare that exposed every vulnerability. This wasn't just a cook-off anymore. It was a courtroom, a trial. Jamal's face turned pale as he gripped the counter hard enough to whiten his knuckles. "Marcus, I didn't know," he whispered, eyes wide with horror. The unraveling had begun, the tenuous threads of their partnership snapping apart like dry twigs. And then, as if the universe wanted to play even dirtier, the camera swung back to a familiar figure. Elon Musk, standing at the corner of the arena, face expressionless, eyes locked on the screen. The crowd erupted again, but this time it was a mix of cheers and puzzled murmurs. "Was this a setup?" Jamal breathlessly asked, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Marcus couldn't pull his gaze away from Musk. The way he looked back at Marcus was cold and calculating. Had he known? Had he played a hand in this? Suddenly, there was movement from the back of the stage. An older man with gray hair and a prominent nose stepped forward into the light. The crowd went silent as they recognized him. Chef Leon Castillo, a legend, revered and feared, known for his sharp tongue and culinary prowess. "I am the chef in question," he said loudly, cutting a path through the whispers like a knife. "That recipe belongs to me. I've been waiting to see who would dare use it again." Shock rippled through the audience. Questions flew, piercing the air. Cries of "what?" filled the void. Faces turned toward Marcus, uncertainty swirling like a storm. "Marcus!" Jamal shouted, voice breaking. "Is this true?" A lump grew in Marcus's throat, panic clawing at him. He had crafted that dish, had made it his own. But the truth was blurring. Panic tangled with anger inside him. Was this betrayal? The crowd's murmurs grew louder as the weight of the secret hung heavy in the air. Marcus stood paralyzed, caught between his past and his dreams, friends and enemies. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows, transforming the golden arena into a battleground. "Will you deny it?" Chef Castillo blessed, eyes locked on Marcus with an intensity that made every nerve in his body scream. The walls were closing in. The realization hit him like a freight train. This was more than just a competition. This was a reckoning, a scar that could never heal, an identity that could never be reclaimed. Marcus's heart raced, breaths short and ragged. How would he answer? What would it mean for his dream, his friendship with Jamal, the entire culinary landscape? He took a step back, breath hitching. The ground felt like it was crumbling beneath him. The world spun, and once again, everything hung in the balance. Could he find a way through this storm? Marcus stood at the edge of the stage, eyes darting between the grill and the swirling crowd. His heart thudded loud in his chest, drowning out the cheers and whispers. The sun hung low, casting a warm glow over everything, but he felt cold, ice settling over his spine. He clutched his knives, fingers trembling. The tension was thick, hot enough to cut. And then, out of nowhere, the lights flickered, flickering dangerously. The crowd's chatter morphed into a low, worried murmur. Marcus squinted toward the back of the arena. There was a commotion. People were looking, gasping. Suddenly, a loud crash rang through the air, splintering the atmosphere like glass. It came from the VIP section. Security rushed in, bodies moving like a wave, parting the crowd. Marcus's heart raced. Was it an accident? A fight? Then he caught a glimpse of Jamal. His friend was staring at something. No, someone. His face twisted in disbelief. Marcus stepped forward, confusion roiling inside him. What was happening? A figure stumbled out from behind the curtain, breathless and wild-eyed. Marcus couldn't believe it. It was Angela, his sister, the one who had vanished years ago, leaving him in that dark world of cardboard boxes and hunger. She looked frantic, sweat glistening on her brow, clothes disheveled. Marcus, her voice cracked, slicing through the chaos. He froze. This was the last person he expected, the last person he wanted to see. A cocktail of fear and hope hammered at his chest. "What are you doing here?" he gasped, shock numbing his limbs. "Listen, I don't have much time," she panted, her eyes darting around. "I found something you need to know." The room felt like it was collapsing. The energy shifted. Trump, standing nearby, a frown creasing his brow, seemed to draw back, sensing a storm brewing. Cameras whipped toward them, the crowd buzzing with confusion. "Angela, I can't," Marcus started, his voice low, but she cut him off. "No, you have to! It's about your dish, the secret!" Her words tumbled out like rocks, heavy and sharp. The murmurs grew, palpable tension wrapping around them, tightening like a noose. "What are you talking about?" Marcus demanded, sweat pooling at his temples. His mind raced back to the competition, to the whispers he had ignored about his seafood dish's origins, how it blurred lines between cultures. And now, Angela's sudden appearance made everything feel fragile. "I found out who stole it. The recipe, it was never yours to claim." A gasp rolled through the crowd, waves of disbelief mixed with outrage. Jamal stepped back, eyes widening. It was like the ground dropped out beneath Marcus. Everything he fought for, his reputation, his dreams, the very foundation began crumbling. His heart sank into a pit of despair. "Angela, please, not now," he pleaded. But she stood firm, determination lighting up her features. "Marcus, you have to expose the truth. They can't see you as a fraud." Her voice was a frantic whisper, yet it sent shockwaves through him. Silence fell, as if the world held its breath. The atmosphere pulsed with tension. The stakes were impossibly high. Would he lose everything he built? Ha 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 ha! Or was this the clash he needed to redefine everything? Marcus looked around at the judging eyes, the crowd waiting for his next move, his mind racing with the implications. He felt dizzy, caught between loyalty to a sister believed lost and the crash of all he had fought for. Was it time to speak the truth, or would that destroy him completely? The knife's edge blurred. He had to decide. But as he opened his mouth to respond, a sound erupted, a loud, piercing scream from the audience that shattered whatever clarity remained. "What now?" he thought, dread creeping back as he spun toward the source of the chaos. Would everything unravel in front of him? This was just the beginning. Marcus stood at the edge of the stage, knives laid out before him, heart racing. The crowd was a sea of anticipation, murmurs bouncing from person to person. His gaze fixed on Jamal, who wore his usual cool smile. But the tension between them felt tangible. Every second pulled tighter, thicker, as if the air had become a woven fabric of hope and fear. Then, just as Marcus focused on the challenge ahead, a loud crash echoed through the arena. The crowd gasped, heads turning toward the noise. A stage light had fallen just inches from where Marcus stood. It smashed the polished floor in a shower of sparks. A wild cheer turned to horrified silence. But it wasn't the light itself that drew attention. It was the figure staggering from behind the chaos, face pale, trembling like a leaf in the wind. It was one of the competition's producers. Something was terribly wrong. "Marcus!" he shouted, voice strained, panic throwing off his usual composure. "You need to see this!" Marcus's stomach dropped. He exchanged a quick glance with Jamal, who wore an expression that mixed concern and curiosity. Marcus jumped down from the stage, heart pounding, weaving through the crowd that parted like waves for him. The whispers grew, confusion thickening the air. What was happening? When he reached Randy, he could see the panic wasn't just about the light. Randy's hand shook as he extended it, revealing a torn piece of paper. "They found this in the back," he breathed, looking around, eyes darting like a cornered animal. It's about your dish." Holding the paper felt like holding fire. The words blurred for a moment, but then clarity struck. The paper was an old recipe, written by a name that sent a jolt through Marcus. "No way, this can't be. They're saying it's a plagiarized creation," Randy hissed. "They have proof. It'll ruin you if it gets out." A tight band squeezed Marcus's chest. He recalled the countless hours spent experimenting in makeshift kitchens. Pouring his soul into each dish, could the roots of his passion lead back to someone else's dream? The crowd's quiet was suffocating. Marcus's mind spiraled through memories of evenings cooking with Jamal, dreaming of changing perceptions, now haunting him like a ghost. Jamal stepped closer, tension rippling through him. "What's going on?" he demanded, voice steady but filled with urgency. The sparkle in his eye dimmed, replaced by something darker. "Marcus, what did you do?" "I didn't do this, I swear." Marcus's voice shot out, desperate. "I created that dish. I made it mine." But Jamal's expression twisted into something cold. "We had a partnership," he shot back, eyes narrowing. "This could ruin everything. Your career, my business, we could lose it all." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Skepticism danced in their features, uncertainty thickening the air between them. "No!" Marcus pleaded, heart hammering. "You've got to believe me. This isn't who I am." Then, right at that moment, without warning, the colossal digital screen overhead flickered to life, and a video began to play. Shadows danced across the crowd. Whispers turned to clamor as images of Marcus's signature dish flashed on screen, the very creation he had fought so hard to build. A voice boomed over the speakers, chilling Marcus to the bone. What happens when a chef forgets his roots? When ambition eclipses authenticity? The video showed scenes from his rise to fame, but then it slipped into darker territory. Footage of another chef, someone who had been cooking that same dish long before Marcus had even thought to touch a pan. Gasps filled the space, disbelief intertwining with the chatter. Marcus felt his world collapsing. The joy, the pride, the hope, all fading into a whirlwind of confusion and betrayal. Jamal's face blurred in Marcus's vision, a mix of anger and fear reflecting back at him. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jamal's voice dripped with accusation, cutting through the chaos around them. "What else are you hiding?" The crowd swirled into a frenzy, cameras flashing, voices rising, scanning for the truth, the scandal that had just shattered Marcus's life. Doubt invaded every corner of his heart. As cameras clicked and voices rose, Marcus stood frozen, the weight of the world pressing down. Was this the end of his dream? Would he lose everything he fought for? In that instant, a crack opened in the facade of his life, the ground beneath him shifting. Questions hung heavy in the air. Who could he trust now? What would become of the bond he shared with Jamal? And what other secrets loomed just out of sight? He felt the strings of his life snap. The competition faded into a haze, everything spiraling into an uncertain future. Marcus stood frozen, the weight of the world pressing down on him. The crowd swayed like a living thing, breaths held as secrets and accusations hung in the air. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the tension, slicing through the confusion like a knife. Everyone turned, eyes wide, searching for the source of the terror. It came from the back of the arena. A figure stumbled forward, eyes wide. Confusion and fear etched deep into their features. The moment hung there, suspended, a heartbeat of terror drumming in Marcus's ears. "Angela!" he cried out. But she didn't hear him. She was looking past him, past the chaos, into a darkness that none of them could see. "Stop! You have to stop this!" she shouted, her voice cracking. "It's all connected! It's all a setup!" The crowd gasped, whispers of fear mingling with excitement. Marcus felt the urge to retreat, but he couldn't move. All eyes were on Angela now, and they, like him, were locked onto her every word. "Your dish, it's part of something bigger. The recipe, your career." Her voice trembled, desperation clawing at the edges. But before she could finish, the massive screen above flickered again. This time, shifting gears, showing blurred faces moving with haste, shadows creeping in the background. "Stay away from him!" A voice roared through the speakers, shaking the arena. The lights dimmed abruptly, sending waves of unease sweeping through the crowd. Angry murmurs erupted. Panic turned to chaos. People surged forward and backward, as if a tidal wave of uncertainty had just washed over them. What was happening? Marcus felt sick, his head spinning. "Marcus!" Jamal shouted again, his voice barely breaking through the din. "What's going on?" But Marcus couldn't focus. He felt like he was unraveling, spinning out of control. Then, just as the crowd's concern reached a fever pitch, a shadowy figure darted onto the stage. Before anyone fully registered the movement, a hand shot out, grabbing Angela by the arm. "You shouldn't have come here." The voice was low and menacing, filled with an ominous tone. Marcus's heart dropped. He recognized him. It was his father, the man who had vanished years ago, leaving shattered dreams in his wake. "Dad!" The words slipped from Marcus's lips, a gasp filled with disbelief and a rush of confusion. "Shut it down!" his father barked, eyes scanning the crowd like a predator on the hunt. "This needs to end now!" The crowd erupted in questions and confusion, eyes flitting between Marcus and the stranger who stood before him. Marcus's head spun, not just from the shock of seeing his father, but from what he'd just learned. "Is this true?" Jamal yelled, voice trembling with anger and confusion. "You knew?" "I didn't know anything," Marcus shouted back, his hands balling into fists. "But how could you just show up now?" "I had to protect you," his father said, tone stark and unyielding. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. They're watching you, and they've planted that recipe like a ticking time bomb. It's not just your career, it's bigger than that." Another wave of disbelief washed over Marcus. He felt the walls closing in, and just as momentum built again, the lights snapped off completely. Darkness enveloped them. Panic surged, and shouts echoed through the void. He could barely hear Jamal's voice, struggling to break through the noise. "Marcus, we need to get out!" But before they could move, flashlights swirled, cutting through the darkness like beams of judgment. Chaos erupted anew as heavy footsteps approached, their shadows growing tall and ominous. Marcus's heart raced. What was going on? As he turned toward his father, ready to demand answers, another voice rang out, shattering the chaos. "Everyone stay where you are!" The authoritative call cut through the air, like steel slicing through flesh. It was a security guard, his face lit by the flashing lights. But then the lights flickered back on, and what they revealed left Marcus breathless. Hanging from the rafters, suspended like a secret waiting to drop, was a glimmering knife. Not just a knife, but an ornate dagger. It swung lightly, like a pendulum, drawing every eye in the house. Everyone was paralyzed, staring at that blade. And in that moment, the atmosphere shifted entirely. Marcus's heart raced with fear and adrenaline. The fear of his father's words echoed in his head, the knife swinging slowly like a countdown to oblivion. What did this all mean? Where did the truth lie? His heart ached with betrayal, doubt, and something darker, lurking just beneath the surface. The only certainty? Everything he thought he knew was about to change forever. Marcus stood frozen, eyes locked on the glittering dagger swinging above him. It glistened ominously as if it were a harbinger of fate. The crowd gasped again, but this time it felt like a wave of dread swept over everyone, chilling the air around them. The lights brightened, illuminating the tension etched in the faces around him. Some wide-eyed in fear, others filled with anticipation. "Why are you here?" he managed to ask his father, fists clenched, the pulse of his heart drumming louder with each passing moment. But before his father could respond, chaos erupted. A loud crash boomed from the back of the arena, drawing his attention. Marcus turned just in time to see a figure struggling against security. Cameramen stumbled backward, scrambling to capture the scene. It was Rachel, the chef who had warned him earlier. She broke free, her face streaked with tears and desperation. The crowd murmured in confusion, eyes darting from Marcus to Rachel as she fought her way through, breathless. You have to listen!" She cried out, voice high-pitched, pushing forward despite the shoving bodies. "It's all connected! He's not who you think!" What? Marcus's heart raced. Was this about his father or the competition? He felt a tightening in his throat, as if he couldn't breathe. Rachel pointed toward him, her finger trembling. "His real name isn't what you think. Your father isn't who you think he is. He's—" Marcus's father suddenly lunged forward, grabbing her arm, silencing her. "Enough!" His voice was a thunderclap, loud and dominating. But in that brief moment of contact, Rachel's eyes shone with a clarity that pierced through the chaos. "His real name is Leonard Sullivan," she breathed, the words falling like a bomb. "The chef who went missing years ago. He left a trail of secrets." Gasps erupted like fireworks, the crowd morphing into a sea of shock and disbelief. Marcus felt the world tilt beneath him. His father, Leonard, wasn't just a lost man. He was a legend, a ghost rising from the ashes of culinary. "He's been using you. The dish, the competition. This is his revenge." Her chest heaved, desperation amplifying her voice. "He caused your mother's downfall. She was trying to protect you from him." A deafening silence followed. The dagger swung above, its gleam seeming more sinister than ever. Anxiety washed over Marcus like cold water. Memories of his mother flooded his thoughts. The way she taught him to cook, the warmth of her laughter, merging into shadows of resentment and pain. And now you see the truth. Leonard's eyes glinted dangerously. "No one can escape their fate, Marcus." Marcus froze, everything crumbling around him. If Leonard was who Rachel claimed, then his entire life hinged on lies. His dreams, his career, his very identity was tied to a man he barely knew. But before he could absorb the weight of those revelations, the arena trembled. The lights flickered one last time, casting eerie shadows. Then, without warning, the screen behind them blared to life again. A video began playing, showing scenes of his dishes, the flavors, the spice, the very essence he had poured into his craft, superimposed with disgraceful headlines from the past. Stolen recipes, lies and deceit. The crowd gasped, confusion igniting. As gasps morphed to murmurs, uncertainty twisted into judgment. Was it all true? Had he been living a lie? Were his achievements just a facade, a mask to hide the truth? Panic gripped him. ... And then came the fire in his veins, a determined rage that burned brighter than the chaos around him. But just as he was about to scream in defiance, the ground shook again. A shadowy figure exploded into the stage from the side, hurled forward by unseen hands. The crowd gasped once more as the figure hit the ground. His mother, eyes wide with fear and anger, rising from the depths of his past, battling shadows he thought had long faded. "Marcus, listen to me," she yelled. A voice woven from fury and sorrow. "You have to choose. The truth can set you free, but what you do with it is what matters most." And there they were, together in the chaos, the weight of the truth hanging in the balance. Marcus felt the world collapsing again, yet somehow it felt like the dawn of something new. Secrets, betrayal, love, They swirled around him, a storm that was just beginning. What would he... Marcos estuvo a edge del estadio. El peso de mi madre bicho se le arranca con él. Las emociones se mezclaban en un caótico danza. Traición, herida, innegable sentido de determinación. Él podía sentir la fila, sus ojos petrantes. Muy solemnemente conocía la competencia. Mamá, él resintió. ¿Tú estás ahí todo? Dice ella, ojos fuertes y llenos de amor. I've watched you struggle. Fight to rise from the ashes of someone else's legacy. But you deserve the truth. Marcos felt la tierra pegada encima. El llanto fuente, recuerdo de su pasado, y la verdad que le entraste en confrontar. Todo se repertía a la superficie, de su guía de madre, las lecciones aprendidas en cocinas de preparación. What do I do? Whispered, caught between wanting to fight and longing for answers. You fight, his mother urged, but with honesty. Show them who you really are. Behind him, Rachel opened her mouth to speak once more, but Leonard pulled her close, keeping a hold on the truth that could shatter everything. Fear sparked in Marcus's chest. Would he lose everything if he exposed the lies? Suddenly, the crowd erupted with gasps as the dagger swung lower, catching the light. Shouts filled the air. Faces blurred into a sea of noise. Jamal stood rigid, his expression shifting from shock to concern. Marcus, he cried out, stepping forward, desperate to reach him. Jamal, I didn't know. Words tumbled from Marcus's lips, confusion mingled with regret. I thought I was doing it right. They're trying to control the narrative, Jamal shouted back. Don't let them win. You have the power to turn this around. The moment hung there, every eye on Marcus, waiting, wanting clarity. He took a deep breath, letting his mother's presence strengthen him, her courage igniting a flicker of resolve. A surge of adrenaline coursed through him. Here he stood, not just as a chef, but as a man ready to break free from the chains of deceit. Listen, he called out, amplifying his voice. I made mistakes. I may not completely understand my history, but I'm here to carve my own path. I won't let these lies define me. The crowd held its breath, the tension palpable. Marcus stepped forward, locking eyes with Leonard. You may have forsaken your legacy for something darker, but I will honor my mother's vision. The cheers erupted like a firework, loud and powerful. The energy shifted around him, people standing in support. He had this chance, not just for himself, but for every chef who had ever been used, discarded, or misunderstood. Through the ruckus, he felt the weight begin to lift, his truth taking shape like a perfect dish emerging from the oven. It's my creation. It reflects my journey and my passion. It's time to celebrate what we make, not where we come from. With renewed strength, Marcus turned back to the crowd, their faces lit with hope. He took his place behind the counter once more, hands steady and heart full. But as he began to prepare his dish, locking away doubt, another figure burst through the crowd. All eyes shifted. It was Carla, her face unreadable, clutching something in her fist. Wait, she cried out, panting. You're not done. There's more to uncover. With a slice of uncertainty hanging over them, the tension thickened again, but this time it felt different. This time there was a sense of possibility lingering in the air. What would come next? Would the truth liberate or destroy? And with that unanswered question, their stories continue to intertwine, a mystery still waiting to unfold. You have to subscribe now. Don't wait even a second longer to share. Smash that like button now to support the channel and keep these stories coming. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about this wild ending, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this shocking conclusion. Your support makes all the difference, so let's keep this community growing.